Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is July the 8th. It is a Wednesday today. Overall markets currently, we are having another drop here in the pre-market. The QQQ is breaking underneath a key level of support as we speak. In the pre-market, the SPY ended up reversing off the top of the key levels that we mentioned yesterday. So there is quite a things to talk about coming into today here. Of course, we do have FOMC minutes as well, and there's a lot of charts to go over. So before we head on to the charts, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning, Kelvin. J-Tan, hope you're feeling better. Yeah, voice feels a lot better today. B-Roots, Andy, what's up, Knight? Good morning, Cody, Lamit, Maria. Good morning, Ryan, The Grand, Zenor, Cinna, Kevin, Francisco, Ashley. Good morning, Robert. What's up, everyone? Today's going to be big. Why is everything crashing? Overall markets, the main reason for this market pullback, specifically this week so far, is because of the semis. We had we had MU earnings last week, and we talked about if MU pulls back, really that was the only thing holding up the markets. So you can see all the semiconductors and more specifically the memory names have pulled back a decent amount, right? MU off its all-time highs within the past week within the past 2 weeks has been down roughly 30%. So that's been dragging down the Qs, it's been dragging down the SMH, and that's why we're having a bigger effect in the markets. But yeah, with that being said, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Let me scroll down here as well. Let me pull up the Forex Factory and we'll get started here. Okay, so yeah, coming into this morning, what do we have for today? We do have some red folder news events. We have FOMC. It's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's something to keep in mind. That's going to be later into the day. This, of course, is not the FOMC statement. It's the FOMC minutes. So not expecting as big of an impact on the markets compared to the FOMC statement, but it is something to still keep in mind. We do have a couple other things to keep in mind as well. Unemployment, that's going to be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is tomorrow, of course. All right, with that being said, let's hop into some of the charts that we have coming into today, starting off with, of course, the major indices. Okay, let's start off here on the SPY chart. Let's go into the daily. So the daily time frame here on the SPY, as you can see, we're just kind of right around this 9 and 21 here on the SPY. Nothing too, not like we're in a crazy trend or anything. The SPY is the one that is leading the markets towards the upside, but now you can see this one is kind of having a tough time continuing higher just because the Qs and SMH, as we mentioned, are dragging the markets lower. So the SPY, the key levels that we have marked out yesterday, if we go into the hourly time frame, we turn back on the drawings here as well. The key levels that we had on the SPY chart was our 750. We talked about this one yesterday. Key levels that we have marked out was our 750. If we reject off this area, right, we could potentially see a reversal here in the markets. And that's kind of what we got coming into yesterday. We were not able to break above that 751, rejected off that 750, and then we ended up continuing towards the downside. And now you can see in the pre-market, a pretty big drop in the overnight session, all the way back down in towards the low that we created here, which was Thursday of last week. If we're looking at the QQQ, you can see the Qs is definitely a lot weaker. Even if you go into the hourly time frame, you can see the Qs now is underneath. Let's get rid of this as well, just briefly. For the Qs, the Qs were underneath our 708. This is a very key technical, a key level of support here. So coming into market open, at least today, if we reject off the 708, you can see a push right back down in towards our 700 and below. If we can reclaim that 708, since we just broke underneath a key level of support, If you can reclaim back above, potentially we can see a mean reversion here in the markets. If we go into the SMH, you can see this one is clearly weaker within the past 2 weeks. Within the past 2 weeks, we have been dropping. We broke underneath a key technical support. This was a couple of days ago. And on Monday, of course, we ended up actually rejecting off this level and we end up gapping underneath. And you can see we're down closer to that 580 here on the higher time frames. Sorry, just grabbing some water there. But for this SMH, you can see we're underneath the EMAs. We're underneath the 9, we're underneath the 21. And now you can see we're dropping. And there's a reason why, at least for the semiconductors, we've had a bigger of a pullback is because we, number one, MU earnings, as I mentioned, and you can see now SMH is underneath the 9, underneath the 21. And that's why it's been a lot harder to long semiconductors compared to right the past few months where we had a nice continuation push towards the upside. So with that being said, you can see we're gapping down on the SMH and now we're showing a little bit more weakness on some of the semis. Key levels that we can have marked out coming to today for the major indices. Let's go back onto this. So for the SMH coming to market open here, key level that we're going to have marked out is our 584. If you do want to see continued push towards the downside, rejection here off this 584 for a push lower. If we can reclaim back above 580, that's going to be key for a move back towards the upside. But that would only be in play if we're going to break back above our previous day highs here, of course, on the SMH. For the QQQ, what are the key levels that we have marked out coming into today? Sorry, the key levels that we have marked out on the Qs coming into market open is going to be this 706. If we do reject off our 706, we can see a pushback down in towards our pre-market lows. If we can reclaim back above, that would be a sign for a potential reversal here in the markets back up in towards the 714. But this is going to be key. Let's keep an eye on that previous day lows coming to today. And then for the SPY, of course, this one is currently bouncing off the 741. The next levels is going to be all the way back up and towards its previous day lows, 745. So for the SPY today, potential previous day low bounce, or you'd be waiting for the reclaim back above for continuation towards upside. The only way you're interested in shorts is underneath 740, or now in this case, a potential pop and fade, which is in play as well, offers 745. All right, with that being said, let's go on to some of the futures charts and what we have coming to market open here as well. Let's go on to the NQ hourly time frame, and you can see we are currently trying to break underneath a key level support, as I mentioned. So this is very key. We have multiple touches here. We have multiple touches here off our 29,400. This is a very key technical level. If we pop, fade, we're just going to use this level as support turn into resistance. If we can get back above, which is key, then we could see a potential mean reversion back towards the upside, right? The flip, we can use this as a potential undercut and then reclaim for a push back towards the highs. So keep that in mind for the ES coming into today. Levels that we have marked out is this 29,200. As for the NQ, as for the ES, we can just kind of refine this level. The key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be that 7,500. And then we can also mark out our previous day lows here as well, which is basically the area that we dropped down from. couple scenarios here for the ES, the reclaim back above, or the bounce play here off our 7,500. These are the two scenarios for ES. And then of course for the ES for potential downside underneath that 7,530 or now underneath that 7,500. All right, with that being said, let me grab some water here before we head on to any other names. But if you guys do have any other tickers you'd like me to go over, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below as well. Okay. With that being said, let's head on to some tech names and what I have coming into today here now, starting off with Tesla, of course. This one, let's go into the daily chart. So as you can see here on the daily time frame, there's really not too much to talk about here on Tesla. A lot of range within the past 10 to 14 days. If we're talking about the more so of a range that we've had, consolidation in between this 380 and this 420 here on Tesla. If I go back onto the hourly time frame, this one is just ranging. It's just making right lows, we're making highs, we're bouncing off key areas, and then we're just rejecting off key areas, and now we're right back towards the downside. So for Tesla coming into today and moving forward, the key levels that we have marked out was our previous day highs. This one actually ended up having a nice previous day high rejection. As you can see right here for Tesla, key level is this 420, of course. We end up popping and just fading right back towards the downside, down in towards this 400. So for this one, we actually end up having a nice move lower. Key levels that we have marked out now is of course going to be our 390 here on the higher time frame. So for Tesla coming into today, let's keep an eye out on our previous day lows. What we like to see is a reaction off this level. We can look for a potential pop and fade for a push down in towards that 390 here on the higher time frames. If we reclaim, of course, we can see this flip back towards our 405 and above. But really, all the trades today are going to be facilitated around our 402.50. So that's what we have for Tesla coming to market open here. Let's keep an eye out on our previous day lows. A couple scenarios that we can be looking for. Let's take a look at NVIDIA here now. So NVIDIA more so on the higher time frames. If we're looking at this on the daily, of course, we're underneath the 9, we're underneath the 21. This one has showed a lot more weakness, right? Well underneath the 21 on the daily time frame. We're also underneath the 9 EMA on the daily. So that's a good sign that this, of course, is a this, of course, is a lot weaker compared to everything else. If we go on to, of course, the hourly time frame, we're just ranging on NVIDIA. The key levels that we have marked out is our 200 along with our 190. If we want to see continuation towards the upside, break above our 197 or above our 200 at a minimum for continuation towards the upside. For downside, we need it underneath our 192. Yesterday, we gapped down and buyers actually stepped in right off our key level support, and we had a mini mean reversion back towards the upside. So for NVIDIA, let's keep an eye out on our 197 still, and then of course our previous day lows, which is our 192 here on the higher time frames. All right, next chart that we have here is AMD. So AMD here, if we're looking at this one on the daily time frame, this one has been consolidating a little bit more here as well. Another kind of rejection here off our all-time highs, and now we're coming back down into our key level of support. You can see for AMD, we're starting to close underneath this 9 EMA, right around this 21 here as well, which is not really a good sign for AMD. You can see we've only had one close underneath the 21. Sorry, we've only had one close underneath the 21 EMA, and that was immediately bought back up, and we end up having a rally right back towards the upside. In this case for AMD, something kind of similar. We're trying to close underneath the 21 here as well. We really would like this level to be defended, which is our key level support here on the hourly time frame. So as you can see here for AMD, we've had multiple touches right around this 500. Very key level support. If we can bounce here, we can see a potential mean reversion. But AMD today, I am going to be interested in a potential rejection off this level. And sorry, for AMD, I actually am interested today underneath that 510. If we can break underneath this key level support, which is also our previous day lows here as well, there's potential we can see some more room down in towards 500 and below. So let's keep an eye out on AMD today. Previous day low potential short towards the downside. In this case, if we can get underneath, very minimal risk, and we could be looking for potential break of support for a move lower. So we'll keep an eye out on AMD. For potential mini day trade, if of course it does want to break underneath that 504. All right, let's go on to a few other tickers that we have coming into today. Apple, we end up having that rejection here off our all-time highs, which we were expecting some sellers to step in off our all-time highs level. So right here, right off that 316. Now for Apple, we'd like to see one of two things: either the break above our previous all-time highs, or of course now the higher low, offer 304 for continuation back towards upside here as well. As for Google, this one ended up having a nice push overall. We are bouncing on the weekly time frame right off our key technical levels, 21 EMA on the weekly. Now for Google, we just like to see kind of build a higher low for right that pushback towards the upside. If we're talking about this on the hourly time frame, you can see key levels that are rejected off of from yesterday, which is this 360 here on the hourly time frame. If you go back into the 15-minute, for Google now, we just like to see it maintain above our 360s. This is a good area for Google. Potential higher lows can still be built, and we can see our move back up in towards a 370 here on the higher time frames. Microsoft, really not too much to talk about on this one. If we're looking at this on the daily, it's still bullish after this bounce here off our double bottom. I would like to see now just higher lows be built, preferably above our 380 for a pushback up in towards our 400. But so far you can see we're kind of having a little bit of rejection here. Not quite a perfect rejection, but so far you can see this level of support is being used as resistance, and currently we are having a little bit of rejection right before that 400 key level here on Microsoft. So potentially we can just end up using this level as a rejection, and we could see maybe even a push right back towards the downside. As for Meta, this one ended up having a nice push higher. Yesterday, we had some news, of course, a couple weeks ago. This one bounced nicely off our 580, and now we're right back up in towards our last week's highs. Some of the levels that we have marked out is our 620. We can mark this one out here on the higher time frames. So 624 That's the key levels that we have marked out. If you do want to see some upside above our 610 for continuation, or now it's going to be the potential bounce play off our 600 for continuation towards upside. All right, some other names that we can keep an eye out for: Amazon, right, 248. Key levels that we're gonna have to break back above 248 if we want to see any sort of continuation. Netflix is reclaiming back above our previous all-time high. So for Netflix, we talked about last week this being a very key level, which is our 76. You can potentially keep an eye on a Netflix bounce. Right now, we are reclaiming back above. We're kind of forming this mini flag pattern here on the hourly. Let's keep an eye on a Netflix potential bounce off the 76 for a move back towards the upside. Or now, if we break back underneath our 76, then we can see a flip here back towards the downside. All right, for SpaceX, the key levels that we have marked out today is our 148. This is basically our IPO low, and we also have our 160 here as well. So for SpaceX, potential bounce play off our 148. That's going to be for a push higher. Of course, if we get underneath our 148, we can see a flip for a push right back towards the downside. Okay. With that being said, I'm going to go on to a few other tickers here now as well. There's a lot of memory names that we can keep an eye out for. INTC was a little bit weaker, broke underneath key levels. We went for the game plan was yesterday was looking for semiconductors and memory for weakness. If names wanted to show some strength, we had like Palantir, Apple, Hood, names that aren't names that aren't normally strong, or sorry, that haven't moved as much within the past couple months. But of course, the semis has been a little bit weaker. So let's go on to some of the names that we have, and then starting off with MU here, of course. So as you can see here for MU, we're currently on the daily time frame. We have the EMAs pulled up. You can see held a 21 on this whole move towards the upside. But recently this week, first time we broke underneath the 9 and the 21. And you can see the move that we've had lower, right? Once we broke underneath that strong candle close, we are having a bit of a pullback here. A bit of a pullback here on MU. This one, if we're talking about relative to the March bottom, this is not that significant of a pullback. Most people would assume where a 30% pullback is a pretty big pullback off the all-time highs, but considering MU rallied almost 300%, a 30% retracement is not significant whatsoever, right? Of course, if we're looking at the past month's worth of price action, right, this is a pretty big pullback, but relative speaking in the overall trend, right, this isn't as big compared to the April bottoms. But with that being said, MU is definitely pulling back more so on the lower time frames. We're breaking underneath key levels that we had on the higher time frames as well. Now we are gonna pull back down. Really, the next level of support, it's pretty far away, but I would like to see really kind of this area. This is our previous area that we bounced from on the daily, which is off our which is off that 880. I would like to see some buyers. I would like to see some buyers step in here off this 880. Key levels that we have marked out is, of course, our previous day lows. Let's actually just mark out a couple key levels here. So for MU today, key levels that we have marked out, basically the area that we broke down from. We can also mark out our previous day lows. And then we have kind of this previous day highs general area. I'm actually going to refine this level here. So we can refine it into that low that we created from last week. And then we also have our previous day highs here as well. So coming into today, Key levels that we have marked out on MU, of course, is going to be our 950 along with our 900, which is our previous day lows. If we want to see some upside on MU now is going to be a little bit more difficult. Daily is underneath the 9, daily is underneath the 21 here as well, so it's trying to flip. But these are the upside scenarios here on MU, above our 950 or below our above our 900. If you want to see a short position, right, we can look for a potential pop and fade for a push towards towards the lows, or now underneath our previous day lows. Continuation towards the downside here is in play. All right, so that's what we have for MU. For SNDK, pretty similar thesis, just mark out that previous day lows along with that previous day highs. That's going to be key. Daily time frame, this is similar thing. A bit of a pullback here, but of course, considering the bottom that we had from March, we're up over 300%. So this 30% retracement, we're only down, 36%. If I drew at the Fibonacci from the April lows, this is still not even a 50% retracement, right? A 50% to 61.8 would still be a healthy pullback for a continued push towards the upside. So SNDK key level support is going to be that 1500 INTC. This one gave up a key level support, which happens to be our 120. Broke underneath yesterday. We actually went for a potential short on INTC for a move towards the downside. This one had a lot of relative weakness underneath our previous day lows here as well. Key levels that we can have marked out today is going to be that previous day lows, 108. Continuation towards the downside, rejection here off this 108 for a push lower. If we get back above, we can see this potential flip here, back up and towards our 112. Okay, so with that being said, let's kind of go over the game plan here for today. We are coming back up and towards our previous day lows here now on the Qs. And then I'm going to get ready for market open here. Are you sick? I wouldn't say sick. I just think clogged throat right in the morning. And I wouldn't say I'm too sick. Hopefully not. Hopefully this doesn't develop into something more serious. But yes, for the overall markets, Qs, at least the game plan today, we're just going to keep an eye out on our previous day lows. That's going to be the key level. Rejection, continuation towards the downside. A flip back above, we can see a move back up towards our 712. So previous day lows here is going to be key on QQQ coming into today. Not sure why. Okay, there you go. Key level is just going to be our previous day lows here on the Q, so we'll keep an eye out on this. For the SPY chart, the SPY we can keep an eye out on here. The SPY we can keep an eye out on here as well, which is off our previous day lows, but the main thing is going to be the Q's previous day lows. So we'll keep an eye out on this. And then for the SMH, we'll keep an eye out on our previous day lows here as well, which is our 568. As for the top watches coming into today, as of recent, as I was saying, as of recent, a lot of it has just been more so based off intraday price action. I haven't had too much of a strong thesis to the upside or the downside. All we're doing is just marking out our previous day highs and previous day lows and waiting for the reaction that we have off those levels. So not trying to force a trade towards the downside or the upside, something like in INTC yesterday, more so based off of intraday price action. Gap down, plus it showed relative weakness, so continue to look for weakness on that one. And then the rest of the names, right, something like where all these names, nothing looks extremely bullish just because the market's pulling back, right? Apple's still holding up, so we'll keep an eye on Apple above this 308. But for everything else, you can see we're having a little bit of a pullback here. Palantir had a nice move yesterday, but now we're kind of gapping back down in towards this week's range. So a little bit less bullish on that one. But basically a lot of red across the board. You can see the semis of course, are dragging down the overall market. So we're going to continue to look for some weakness in the semiconductors today. And of course, with the Qs right at a key technical level, we're going to maintain a bearish bias in the markets underneath our previous day lows here on the Qs. If we can flip back above, then potentially we can be looking for intraday bullish price action. All right, perfect. I'm gonna call it a session here. Let's see, try some elderberry syrup, feel better. Yeah, I'll try. Thanks for the suggestions. I'll look into it. That flu has been going around. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys do you have a course that goes in depth with your trading style? Correct, Teddy. I also have a bunch of videos on YouTube that I can check out beforehand. The course is more in depth, and of course, it goes in order. My YouTube videos, all the concepts that I talk about on my YouTube channel I do use, and but I just go into a little bit more depth. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna call it a session here. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch, the set of course is in the description below. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.